The British film industry churned out some of the most haunting war movies ever made, many shot while bombs were still falling on London. Forget Hollywood propaganda. These gritty tales were filmed by directors who'd seen combat firsthand. Did you know one classic war film used actual war footage so realistic that Nazi Germany accused Britain of war crimes? Tonight, we're diving into 15 British war classics you can stream right now without spending a penny. From forgotten masterpieces to career-defining performances, these are the films that changed how we see conflict forever. Number 15. Ice Cold in Alex, 1958. Ice Cold in Alex kicks off our list with one of the most authentic depictions of desert warfare ever filmed. Set during the North African campaign, the film follows Captain Anson, a battle-weary alcoholic who dreams of nothing more than an ice-cold beer at the Alexandra Hotel in Alexandria. His obsession with that drink becomes the driving force behind an epic 600-mile journey across the merciless desert in an ambulance. What makes this film extraordinary isn't just John Mills's raw performance, but the brutal filming conditions. The cast and crew spent months in the actual Libyan desert, suffering the same heat exhaustion and dehydration as their characters. Temperatures regularly hit 130 degrees, causing equipment failures and sending crew members to hospital with heat stroke. Director J. Lee Thompson later admitted they nearly abandoned production when sandstorms destroyed half their equipment. The film's most iconic scene, where Mills finally gets his beer, wasn't even scripted. After weeks of desert shooting where alcohol was banned, Mills was genuinely drinking his first cold beer in a month. That look of pure ecstasy on his face? Completely real. Critics initially dismissed it as just another war picture, but French critics later hailed it as existentialism in khaki, celebrating its unflinching look at human endurance. The film's influence runs deep, with Christopher Nolan citing it as a major inspiration for Dunkirk's visceral realism. Stream it tonight, and you'll never look at a glass of lager the same way again. Number 14. The Cruel Sea, 1953. The Cruel Sea gives you naval warfare so authentic that actual Royal Navy veterans walked out of screenings, claiming the film triggered their PTSD. Based on Nicholas Monsarret's best-selling novel, it follows the crew of HMS Compass Rose as they battle not just German U-boats, but the merciless Atlantic itself. Jack Hawkins delivers a career-defining performance as Captain Erickson, a man slowly cracking under the weight of impossible decisions. This isn't your typical heroic naval adventure. Director Charles Friend shocked audiences by showing the psychological toll of command, particularly in a gut-wrenching scene where Erickson must run down shipwrecked sailors to pursue a submarine. The Admiralty initially tried blocking the film, arguing it revealed too many wartime tactical secrets. Eventually, they relented, providing actual corvettes and naval bases for filming. What truly sets this film apart is its revolutionary sound design. Technicians recorded actual depth charge explosions and developed new mixing techniques to capture the claustrophobic atmosphere of a warship. When released, it became Ealing Studios' highest-grossing film ever, making $215,000 in its first year, equivalent to about $6.5 million today. Critics praised its documentary-like intensity, with the New York Times calling it the most honest depiction of naval warfare ever put to film. Legendary director David Lean later admitted stealing several techniques from The Cruel Sea for his own epics. The film's brutal honesty about war's moral compromises feels startlingly modern, making it just as powerful to stream today as it was shocking in 1953. Number 13. Went the Day Well? 1942. Went the Day Well? Might be the most disturbing propaganda film ever made. Released in 1942, when Britain genuinely feared invasion, this paranoid masterpiece shows German paratroopers disguising themselves as British soldiers to infiltrate a picturesque English village. What happens next transformed British cinema forever. Director Alberto Cavalcanti delivers the most shocking bait and switch in wartime filmmaking. The movie starts as cozy village comedy before erupting into savage violence. Sweet old ladies stab Nazi soldiers with kitchen knives. The postmistress blows herself up with a grenade to kill Germans. Children become killers. It's like if Agatha Christie wrote The Purge. The film was so disturbing that Winston Churchill's government nearly banned it, fearing it would terrify civilians rather than inspire them. Instead, it became a massive hit with British audiences who found its fight like animals if necessary message cathartic during the darkest days of the war. The production itself was fraught with tension, as several cast members had family trapped in Nazi-occupied Europe during filming. Critics today call it the first home invasion thriller, with Martin Scorsese naming it one of the most influential British films ever made. Quentin Tarantino borrowed heavily from its ordinary people-turned-vicious concept for Inglourious Basterds. What makes it particularly chilling to watch today is how it presents English village life as both quaint and capable of extreme violence when threatened. The film's final line, "It happened here," delivered directly to camera, still sends shivers down viewers' spines nearly 80 years later. Stream it tonight and see where the mild-mannered Brits turned savagely violent trope was born. Number 12, In Which We Serve, 1942. In Which We Serve isn't just a war film. It's a cinematic miracle produced while London burned. Noel Coward, yes, that Noel Coward, the flamboyant playwright and composer, somehow convinced Winston Churchill to let him co-direct and star in this naval epic based on the real-life exploits of his friend, Lord Louis Mountbatten. The result was a propaganda masterpiece that redefined British cinema. Shot during the actual Blitz, the production faced literal life-and-death challenges daily. Air raid sirens frequently interrupted filming, with cast and crew diving into shelters as German bombs fell nearby. In one incredible instance, they resumed shooting on a set half destroyed by a direct hit, incorporating the real damage into the film. This wasn't just method acting, it was survival filmmaking. What makes this film revolutionary is its narrative structure. Decades before Pulp Fiction made non-linear storytelling cool, Coward and co-director David Lean employed flashbacks from multiple perspectives, showing how war affects everyone, from officers to ordinary sailors to their families at home. The Admiralty was so impressed they provided an actual destroyer for exterior shots, though Coward had to promise not to reveal certain naval tactics. Critics initially dismissed it as just another flag waver, but the film's emotional honesty connected with audiences experiencing the same losses depicted on screen. It grossed over $300,000, about $13 million today, and won Coward a Special Academy Award. The film launched David Lean's directorial career, completely changing British cinema's trajectory. Without this film, we might never have had Lawrence of Arabia or The Bridge on the River Kwai. Stream it tonight to witness the birth of modern war filmmaking amid actual wartime conditions. Number 11, The Way to the Stars, 1945. The Way to the Stars gives us World War II from a perspective rarely seen, the bittersweet reality of American airmen stationed in British countryside. What makes this film exceptional isn't just its stellar cast, including John Mills and a young Trevor Howard, but that it was filmed while the war was still raging, with real American bomber crews participating between actual combat missions. Director Anthony Asquith captured something unique, the strange cultural collision as brash, confident Americans arrived in sleepy English villages. The film doesn't shy away from tensions, with British officers initially resentful of American swagger and equipment superiority. Yet it evolves into a poignant examination of shared sacrifice as men from both nations face the grim reality that many won't return from each mission. The production faced extraordinary challenges. Real wartime censors monitored every scene to ensure no military secrets were revealed. The actors wore authentic uniforms provided by the RAF and USAAF, with technical advisors ensuring every detail was correct. Most remarkably, several scenes used footage from actual combat missions, with real pilots who later died in action appearing briefly on screen. What truly distinguishes the film is its refusal to indulge in jingoistic heroics. Instead, it focuses on the quiet moments between missions, the strain of awaiting, the forced joviality masking terror, the empty chairs at breakfast tables. Critics praised its documentary-like authenticity, with the Times calling it war's reality without war's glamour. American director William Wyler called it the most honest film about airmen ever made. The screenplay by Terrence Rattigan drew from his own experiences as an RAF tail gunner, lending it emotional truth rarely found in war films of the era. Stream it tonight to experience the war film that broke all the rules about how combat should be portrayed. Number 10. The Life and Death of Colonel Blimp, 1943. The Life and Death of Colonel Blimp almost got its creators arrested for treason. This Technicolor masterpiece from Powell and Pressburger so infuriated Winston Churchill that he tried to block its release, claiming it would undermine military morale. Churchill was particularly outraged that the film portrayed a sympathetic German character and suggested old guard military thinking was outdated. When the filmmakers refused to back down, Churchill allegedly considered seizing their film negatives under emergency war powers. What makes this film revolutionary is its structure, spanning 40 years of British military history through the eyes of one officer, from the Boer War to World War II. Roger Livesey delivers an extraordinary performance as Clive Candy, transforming from hot-headed young lieutenant to aging, out-of-touch major general. The film's 3-hour runtime was unprecedented for British cinema of the era, with the studio initially threatening to cut it in half. The production faced incredible wartime obstacles. Technicolor film stock was rationed for war purposes, forcing the directors to lobby government officials for every role. The Army refused to loan tanks or uniforms, forcing the art department to build wooden mock-ups and sew costumes from scratch. Most remarkably, they cast a 27-year-old Deborah Kerr to play 3 different women across different time periods, an acting challenge that launched her international career. Critics initially echoed Churchill's complaints, calling it dangerously sympathetic to our enemies. But audiences loved its emotional complexity and gorgeous visuals. After the war, its reputation soared, with Martin Scorsese naming it among his 5 favorite films ever made and funding its restoration. What seemed treasonous in 1943 now looks prophetic, particularly in its warnings about military rigidity and its plea for maintaining humanity even in total war. Stream it tonight to see the controversial masterpiece that dared question British military thinking while bombs still fell on London. Number 9. The Dam Busters, 1955. The Dam Busters isn't just a war film. It's the blueprint that George Lucas used to create Star Wars' Death Star Trench Run. This meticulous recreation of Operation Chastise follows RAF Wing Commander Guy Gibson and scientist Barnes Wallace as they develop the revolutionary bouncing bomb, designed to destroy German dams and cripple industrial production in the Ruhr Valley. What makes this film extraordinary is its absolute commitment to technical accuracy. The production team constructed the actual Muna and Eder dams in miniature, then used real explosives to blow them up, creating some of the most realistic special effects of the 1950s. The filmmakers gained unprecedented access to classified RAF documents, working with actual Lancaster bomber crews and Barnes Wallace himself as technical consultant. In one remarkable instance, they accidentally recreated a genuine wartime security breach, prompting an MI5 investigation during production. The aerial sequences remain some of the most authentic ever filmed, with director Michael Anderson using actual Lancaster bombers provided by the RAF, which were nearly extinct by 1955. The aircraft flew at dangerously low altitudes just 60 feet above water, exactly as they had during the real raid. Several scenes were shot at the actual RAF Scampton base, where the mission originated, using the genuine briefing room where the original pilots received their orders. Critics praised its documentary-like realism, with the film grossing $454,000 in Britain alone, the equivalent of about $11 million today. Its influence on cinema cannot be overstated, with the Death Star attack in Star Wars directly copying several shots and even dialogue lines. Peter Jackson owns one of the original Lancaster models used in filming and has been trying to remake the film for years. Stream it tonight to experience the technical masterpiece that changed how aerial combat would be filmed for decades to come. Number 8. Dunkirk, 1958. Before Christopher Nolan tackled the famous evacuation, there was this gritty black and white classic that actually starred men who'd been at the real Dunkirk. This overlooked gem follows 3 storylines: a newspaper reporter, a soldier trapped on the beach, and an ordinary civilian who takes his small boat across the channel to help with the rescue. What makes it special is that it was filmed just 13 years after the actual events, when memories were still raw. The production faced unique challenges, particularly when filming on the actual beaches of Dunkirk. French authorities initially refused permission until the British government intervened at the highest levels. During shooting, workers regularly uncovered unexploded ordnance and war debris, forcing multiple evacuations of the set. Most remarkably, hundreds of extras were actual Dunkirk veterans recreating their own experiences, bringing an authenticity no amount of modern CGI could match. Director Leslie Norman insisted on brutal realism, showing the chaos, fear, and occasional cowardice alongside heroism. This approach got him into trouble with the War Office, which tried unsuccessfully to cut scenes showing British soldiers in panic and disorder. The film sparked controversy by suggesting the evacuation was necessitated by military blunders, rather than just presenting it as a triumph against adversity. John Mills delivers a powerful performance as Corporal Tubby Binns, a character based on several real soldiers. The scene where exhausted men walk into the sea attempting to reach ships offshore was so realistic that several veterans in the audience reportedly suffered flashbacks during early screenings. Critics praised its documentary-like intensity, though it was later overshadowed by bigger-budget war epics. Richard Attenborough called it the most honest depiction of Dunkirk ever filmed, despite his own performance in the later, more famous The Longest Day. Stream it tonight to see how this pivotal moment in World War II was portrayed, while those who lived through it could still tell their stories. Number 7. The Man Who Never Was, 1956. The Man Who Never Was reveals one of World War II's strangest true operations, so bizarre that audiences initially thought it was fiction. Based on Operation Mincemeat, the film shows British intelligence officers planting false invasion plans on a corpse dressed as a Royal Marine officer, then allowing the body to wash ashore in Spain, hoping the documents would reach German intelligence and mislead them about Allied invasion plans. What makes this film remarkable is how closely it sticks to the actual classified operation. Released just a decade after the war, the British government initially tried blocking production, arguing it revealed too many intelligence techniques. Eventually, they permitted filming but insisted on script approval and assigned a former MI5 officer to oversee production. Ewan Montague, who led the real operation, served as technical advisor but had to pretend certain details were fictional to maintain official secrecy. The production team's commitment to authenticity was extraordinary. They filmed in the actual Admiralty buildings where the operation was planned, and on the Spanish beaches where the body washed ashore. Director Ronald Neame insisted on using genuine wartime documents and equipment, creating a documentary-like realism unusual for 1950s cinema. Most remarkably, the film reveals the genuine emotional dilemma faced by intelligence officers who needed a recently deceased body that looked like a drowning victim, leading to uncomfortable ethical questions about using someone's remains for military purposes. Critics praised its taut storytelling and matter-of-fact approach to espionage, with the New York Times calling it a spy story that actually happened, which makes it more fascinating than fiction. The film grossed $1.2 million America alone, impressive for a British production of the era. Its influence extended beyond entertainment, with the CIA reportedly using it as a training film for decades afterward. Stream it tonight to witness the stranger-than-fiction true story that helped change the course of World War II. Number 6. The Small Back Room, 1949. The Small Back Room gives us the most realistic portrayal of alcoholism ever seen in 1940s cinema. This psychological thriller from Powell and Pressburger follows Sammy Rice, a bitter, hard-drinking bomb disposal expert, battling personal demons while trying to defuse a new type of German bomb killing civilians across Britain. David Farrar delivers a harrowing performance as a man constantly teetering between brilliance and self-destruction. What makes this film extraordinary is its unflinching portrayal of addiction, shown through surrealist nightmare sequences, including one where Rice is tormented by a giant whiskey bottle. These expressionist techniques were revolutionary for British cinema, with critics comparing them to Hitchcock at his most experimental. The film faced censorship challenges, with the British Board of Film Classification initially demanding cuts to both the drinking scenes and bomb disposal sequences, which they claimed could educate actual saboteurs. The production team worked with real bomb disposal officers, many still actively defusing unexploded ordnance around Britain, These experts served as technical advisors, ensuring authentic details like the specialized tools and techniques shown on screen. Most remarkably, several scenes were filmed in actual London locations, still showing war damage, including buildings where unexploded bombs had been removed just months earlier. The film's centerpiece is a 15-minute bomb disposal sequence on a windswept beach, filmed in real time with almost no dialogue, creating unbearable tension through sound design and visual composition. Critics praised its psychological depth, with The Observer calling it a war film that recognizes the enemy within can be as dangerous as the enemy without. Initially a box office disappointment, it later influenced generations of filmmakers, with Catherine Bigelow citing it as a major inspiration for The Hurt Locker. Stream it tonight to experience the noir-influenced masterpiece that dared show the psychological wounds of war, when most films only celebrated heroism. Number 5. Reach for the Sky, 1956. Reach for the Sky tells the almost unbelievable true story of Douglas Bader, a RAF pilot who lost both legs in a pre-war flying accident, then fought his way back into the cockpit to become one of Britain's top flying aces during the Battle of Britain. Kenneth More delivers a career-defining performance, capturing Bader's extraordinary determination and his notoriously difficult personality with equal conviction. What makes this film remarkable isn't just its inspirational story, but its refusal to turn Bader into a simple hero. Director Lewis Gilbert insisted on showing Bader's arrogance, temper, and occasional cruelty alongside his undeniable courage. This decision sparked conflict with the real Bader, who was still very much alive and initially threatened legal action over certain scenes. Eventually, he grudgingly approved the film, though he reportedly walked out of the premiere during a scene depicting his struggle with prosthetic legs. The production faced unique technical challenges, particularly in depicting realistic flying sequences with 1950s technology. The RAF provided actual Spitfires for exterior shots, while the special effects team developed new techniques for cockpit scenes, eventually winning a BAFTA for their innovations. Most remarkably, Kenneth More spent months learning to move convincingly on artificial limbs, studying with actual amputees from the war to ensure authenticity. The film became one of Britain's biggest box office hits of the 1950s, grossing over $750,000, equivalent to about $18 million today. Critics praised its unsentimental approach, with the Daily Telegraph calling it harrowing without being manipulative. The film's impact on disability representation cannot be overstated, as it showed a physically disabled protagonist who was neither defined solely by his disability nor presented as an object of pity. Stream it tonight to witness the true story that changed how British cinema portrayed both warfare and disability. Number 4. The Battle of Britain, 1969. The Battle of Britain assembled the largest collection of flyable World War II aircraft since the actual battle itself. This star-studded epic recreated the crucial 1940 air campaign with an authenticity that remains unmatched by any subsequent film. The production acquired 17 Spitfires, 5 Hurricanes, and had Spain's Air Force modify their Messerschmitts to look like German models, creating what was temporarily the world's 35th largest air force. What makes this film extraordinary isn't just its aerial sequences, but the logistical nightmares overcome to create them. Director Guy Hamilton, himself a former naval officer, insisted on filming actual planes rather than models, leading to astronomical insurance costs. Spanish dictator Francisco Franco demanded script approval before allowing his air force to participate, objecting to scenes portraying German officers whom he considered friends. Most remarkably, the production employed 27 pilots, many of them veterans of the actual battle, resulting in several near-fatal accidents during filming. The film's commitment to historical accuracy extended to using the actual operations rooms where the battle was coordinated and rebuilding RAF Uxbridge's underground command center on a soundstage. The soundtrack features a remarkable score by Ron Goodwin after William Walton's original music was rejected. The legendary actor Laurence Olivier was so committed to authenticity in his role as Air Chief Marshal Hugh Dowding that he borrowed Dowding's actual uniform from the RAF Museum. Critics were divided, with some praising its spectacular aerial sequences, while others criticized the thin characterizations. However, the film's technical achievements were universally acclaimed, winning BAFTAs for cinematography and sound design. Its influence extended beyond cinema, with the aerial photography techniques developed for the film later used in Star Wars and countless other productions. Stream it tonight to witness the most accurate recreation of aerial combat ever committed to film, using the actual aircraft that won one of history's most pivotal battles. Number 3. Hope and Glory, 1987. Hope and Glory gives us World War II through the eyes of a 10-year-old boy who thinks the Blitz is the most exciting thing that ever happened to his boring London suburb. Director John Boorman based this semi-autobiographical film on his own childhood experiences during the bombing of London, creating a war film unlike any other, where air raids become playground adventures and bomb sites transform into childhood wonderlands. What makes this film extraordinary is its child's perspective on war. When a bomb destroys his school, young Bill dances with joy, shouting, "Thank you, Adolf." The film sparked controversy for its darkly comedic tone, with veterans groups initially criticizing its inappropriate levity toward national trauma. Yet, its emotional honesty ultimately won over critics, who recognized how accurately it captured the resilience of children amid chaos. The production design team recreated 1940s London with astonishing detail, building an entire suburban street that they then systematically bombed throughout filming. The special effects team developed new techniques for depicting nighttime air raids, combining miniatures, full-scale explosives, and optical effects to create some of the most realistic bombing sequences ever filmed. Most remarkably, many scenes were shot in locations where actual bombs had fallen, with production designers simply enhancing still visible war damage. The film earned 5 Academy Award nominations, including Best Picture and Best Director, and won the National Board of Review's Best Film Award. Critics praised its unique perspective, with Roger Ebert calling it a film of enormous charm and surprise, finding laughter in the midst of destruction. Its influence extended beyond war films, helping pioneer the child's eye view of adult events approach, later seen in everything from Empire of the Sun to Jojo Rabbit. Stream it tonight to experience the war film that dared suggest that, amid the horror of the Blitz, some children were having the time of their lives. Number 2. The Way Ahead, 1944. The Way Ahead isn't just a war film. It was actually created as a training tool for real soldiers headed to the front lines. This remarkable production follows a group of civilians from different backgrounds as they're drafted, struggle through basic training, and eventually become an effective fighting unit. What makes it extraordinary is that it was commissioned by the British Army's own film unit as a morale booster for actual recruits, then evolved into a theatrical release that changed wartime cinema. Director Carol Reed and screenwriter Eric Ambler, both serving in the Army film unit, brought unprecedented realism to the project. They filmed in actual training camps with real drill instructors barking orders at the actors. Several scenes used live ammunition and genuine military exercises, creating danger both on and off camera. Most remarkably, they cast real soldiers alongside professional actors, sometimes blurring the line between fiction and documentary. The film's influence reached far beyond entertainment. Sequences showing how to respond to various combat situations were so effective that the War Office incorporated them into actual training programs. The American military was so impressed, they requested their own version, leading to Frank Capra's similar training films. The scene where a reluctant recruit becomes a determined soldier after seeing his hometown destroyed was shown to thousands of actual draftees. Critics praised its honest portrayal of military life, with the Daily Telegraph calling it propaganda that doesn't feel like propaganda. Its box office success, earning approximately $250,000, equivalent to about $10 million today, proved audiences preferred realistic depictions over the jingoistic fare common in earlier war films. David Niven, who served as a commando during the war, later called his role in this film the most important work I ever did. Stream it tonight to witness the remarkable film that was simultaneously entertainment, military training, and a turning point in how cinema portrayed ordinary soldiers. Number 1. Overlord, 1975. Overlord might be the most mind-bending war film ever made. Director Stuart Cooper spent 3 years scouring over 3,000 hours of actual combat footage in Britain's Imperial War Museum, then seamlessly wove these real images into his fictional story about a young soldier's journey toward D-Day. The result is a hallucinatory masterpiece where you literally cannot tell where documentary ends and fiction begins. What makes this film revolutionary is its technical achievements. Cinematographer John Alcott, fresh from working with Kubrick on A Clockwork Orange, used 1940s vintage lenses and film stock to ensure the new footage matched perfectly with archival material. The team discovered forgotten government footage that had never been seen by the public, including classified material from experimental weapon tests. In one remarkable sequence, they incorporated genuine footage of secret tank testing that had remained classified until just months before the film's release. The production faced enormous challenges accessing military archives, with Cooper later revealing that certain footage was only released to him after direct intervention from royal family members who supported the project. Most controversially, the film incorporates actual death footage from the front lines, raising ethical questions that divided critics. The director defended these choices as necessary to show war's reality, arguing that sanitized depictions did a disservice to those who fought. Upon release, Overlord won the Silver Bear at the Berlin Film Festival, but was barely distributed in Britain and America, with major studios claiming it was too experimental for commercial release. It languished in obscurity until 2006, when restoration efforts by the Imperial War Museum and Francis Ford Coppola's American Zoetrope brought it back to audiences. Critics now recognize it as a lost masterpiece, with Martin Scorsese calling it one of the greatest films about war ever made. Stream it tonight to experience the forgotten classic that blurs the line between fiction and reality like no other war film before or since. From the surreal documentary hybrid of Overlord to the childhood adventures of Hope and Glory, these 15 films show the British perspective on war in all its complexity. They're not just movies, they're historical documents made by filmmakers who often served in the conflicts they depicted. Which of these forgotten classics will you stream first? And here's the real question for the comments. Does Hollywood's big-budget approach to war actually sanitize conflict compared to these grittier British productions? Are we losing something important as practical effects give way to CGI battlefields where no one was ever in actual danger? Drop your thoughts below, and let us know which other obscure war classics deserve their own video.